What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Touchdowns to Home Runs. My name is Bernie. Thank you for joining us today on the Touchdowns to Home Runs show. That your day is going absolutely fantastic. We have the first semifinal matchup set and ready to go for Wimbledon 2021 after Novak Djokovic and Denis Shapovalov each respectively won their quarterfinal matchups earlier on today. They will now meet in the semifinals. I'm super excited for it. I think it's going to be a really solid match. So today we'll be breaking down each one of these two players and their keys to victory, and then make sure to stick around towards the end of the video where I'll be giving my predictions on what to expect in terms of the outcome of this match. But before we get into previewing these two players, let's take a look at the road to the quarterfinals. For Novak Djokovic, got it kicked off against Draper, a big server. Djokovic didn't play a Wimbledon singles warm-up on the grass surface, so he did drop a set in this one, but no real struggles. Kevin Anderson in the second round, Kudla in the third, 17 Garin in the fourth, and then Fucsovics, as I was mentioning before earlier on today, in the quarterfinals. On the flip side, for Denis Shapovalov, got it started with a pretty tricky 5-set matchup against Kohlschreiber. Got a bit lucky with Andujar pulling out of the second round match, gave him a little bit of rest. Definitely played into his favor. Had a really nice straight set win in the third round against Andy Murray, in the fourth round against 8 Batista Agut, and then earlier on today beat number 25 Khachanov in the quarterfinals. In terms of the head-to-head matchup, Djokovic leads the all-time matchup by a score of 6-0. Definitely had his way, but I wouldn't count Shapovalov necessarily out of this match. Djokovic has played some phenomenal tennis, obviously, this year. Won 2 Grand Slams. Only had 3 losses, 3 titles to his name as well. Shapovalov hasn't had a title this year, but has made some deep runs and deep pushes into this tournament. Does have 13 losses. He is fairly inconsistent, but I think he's gained a lot of momentum, and I think he is at top form right now. So as I mentioned before, these two guys have played 6 different times, but never on the grass surface. But they did play earlier on in 2021 in the ATP Cup, which is probably the most sort of transferable match that we have to evaluate, I think, beforehand. Shapo didn't necessarily play poorly, although he did lose in straight sets, but Djokovic was on his A game, won 80% of points behind his first serve, 88% behind his second serve. Obviously very quality in terms of that. This now being a 5-set match, as we'll talk about later, I think the return game is going to be so crucial for Shapovalov. Even if he doesn't get a massive amount of breaks, has to find a way to win more points in the return game, has to push Djokovic at least a little bit, I think, in some of his service games if he's got any chance at an upset here. Let's get it kicked off by breaking down Novak Djokovic, though, and he's really one of the few players ever that seems to get better and better with age, and he's in the midst, as I mentioned before, in a year where he's already won 2 Grand Slams, has a real shot at Wimbledon here, and then the calendar slam potentially later on this year, but he's playing some absolutely phenomenal tennis, leading all of the tournament in points won behind his first serve, continues to return well, as we all expect, and, you know, looked unbeatable coming into the tournament, looks unbeatable really right now. I think in terms of keys to victory for Novak Djokovic, I got 2 different ones. The first is get off to a quick start. Shapovalov, even though he's playing some really amazing tennis right now, is an extremely inconsistent player who tends to really fuel on momentum and confidence. And if Djokovic can find a way to sort of zap that out of him early on in the first set, I think that's a huge advantage for him. And, you know, if he can find a way to sort of counter that heavy-hitting forehand that Shapovalov has, maybe sneak out an early break, putting pressure on the Canadian for sure would be a huge help. And I don't see Shapovalov really having a come-from-behind victory. The second key to victory that I have is just keep dominating on serve. As I mentioned before, Djokovic has served very well historically against Shapovalov, who didn't have a single look at a break point in their match earlier on this year. Now, obviously, it's on a different surface, much different circumstances in a later part of a Grand Slam, but Novak is still serving very well. Only lost 13 points on serve a couple of matches ago against Garin, and I talked about how well he's looked statistically on both the first and second serves. So I think the easier that it is for Djokovic to hold, the more pressure it puts also on that Shapo serve, the easier as a whole this match really becomes for Djokovic. In terms of Denis Shapovalov, what a run that he's had so far, whether he wins or not against Djokovic. Superb run. Him and Felix Auger-Aliassime have already put together a historical run for Canadian tennis, but Shapovalov's still going to be looking to pull off that upset and join Raonic as past Canadians to reach the Wimbledon finals. Again, Shapovalov, this is his best performance ever in a major draw, and he really does deserve it given the way that he's played. Done a phenomenal job in terms of returning and receiving, especially on opposition's first serve, which is super impressive. And we obviously knew that quality beforehand of his, or the quality before of his forehand, which gets amplified on grass. Definitely been using that to his strength. I really, really like the form and what I've seen from Shapovalov in the past 2, 3, 4 matches. His key to victory, I'm going to keep it simple. Got to find a way in the return game. Shapovalov is serving fine, but again, Djokovic is serving absolutely phenomenal. And, you know, sort of the opposite of what I mentioned in the keys to game for Djokovic, I think it's so crucial for Shapovalov to be able to put some pressure on Djokovic, and, you know, just push him deeper into service games. It doesn't always have to be breaks, but he does need to get himself some looks. He does need to get deeper into the games, 40-30s, you know, 30-30s, those type of situations, and just see, you know, if he is up to the task. In terms of my prediction, Novak Djokovic was the man to beat coming into the tournament, and really nothing that I've seen so far proves to me that he's not. I think he's still far and away the player to beat in this tournament. You know, but that doesn't mean that these matches aren't going to be interesting, whether it's in this semifinal matchup or a potential championship matchup, you know, against whoever he plays. Shapovalov is playing some great tennis on grass, and I won't take that away from him. And this is no shot at Denis Shapovalov whatsoever. But the way Djokovic is playing, it'll take a near perfect performance on both serve and the return in order to beat him. So yeah, I will give Shapovalov a set because I just think he's playing super, super well. And if he can get off to a quick start, I think, you know, first, second set could possibly be there for him to take. But when it's all said and done, I think Djokovic will, you know, be serving really, really solid come sets 3 and 4 if it does get to a 4th set. And obviously, we don't even have to talk about how good Djokovic is. One of, if not the greatest returners in our sport, and his ability to sort of pressure Shapovalov that way. So I would take, maybe Shapovalov in the 2nd set, but overall Djokovic in 4 sets and a berth in the championship round and a chance to win his 3rd Grand Slam of the year and tie Nadal and Federer for the Slam leads. But if you guys didn't make it to this point in the video, thank you. Let me know your thoughts, your comments on anything that I talked about today down in the comment section below. Also, let me know your predictions down in the comment section below. I want to hear a player, either Djokovic or Shapovalov, and let me know in how many sets. But if you guys did enjoy today's video, make sure to let me know by smashing that thumbs up button, subscribing to Touchdowns to Home Runs for more content just like this. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.